It's one of those pillows that you like lean against, or you put your feet on, or you sit on and it vibrates. This would be a whole different show. Not that show. Hello, and welcome to episode 43 of the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. This is a podcast primarily about knitting, though I do get up to other fiber-related topics from time to time. I am coming to you from Henderson, Nevada, which is a small suburb outside of Las Vegas, Nevada, in the United States. This is where I am from and where I live with my husband Brandon, our 2.5-year-old son Ronan, our 5-year-old son Angus, and our big fat house cat Oscar. If at any point you would like to get in touch with me, you can find me on Instagram over at fiber.for.the.people. That is the Instagram account associated with my hand-dyed yarn business, Fiber for the People. You can also learn more about Fiber for the People by heading over to fiberforthepeople.com. You can also contact me via email at contact@fiberforthepeople.com. And I'm also on Ravelry as Taylor Earl. All of those important links for contact for anything that I mention here in the show are down below in the description box. Like I said, this is episode 43, and I am so happy that you've taken some time to stop by and sit a while with me and chat. Thank you so much. If you are new to the podcast, thank you for stopping by to check out this little corner of YouTube. If you are a returning viewer and subscriber, thank you for coming back. I have a lot to share with you guys today, including my newly finished Sunday socks. But first, let's get into what's going on in the Wool Needles Hands Year of Makes Make-Along. Like I said, there is a Ravelry group associated with the Wool Needles Hands podcast. You can find that by heading over to Ravelry, going up to the groups tab, searching Wool Needles Hands or Wool Needles Hands, a knitting podcast. Find the group there, join us. We have a year-long make-along going on right now, and it is simply the Wool Needles Hands Year of Makes 2021. We are making things all throughout the year, fiber-related, whether it's weaving, crochet, knitting, sewing, what have you. It's all included over there, so definitely head over to Ravelry and check that out. There is an active chatter thread with tons of inspiring things to look at, conversations going on, and then there is a really inspiring finished objects thread as well. You can jump in and out of this knit along at any time. All the information is on Ravelry, so I'm going to direct you there to learn more about it, but I'm just here to tell you that we would love to have you join, that we would like to welcome you into this knit along, make along, crochet along, weave along, whatever it is. Just know that you have a place to share some of those makes and have some fun conversations surrounding your makes in the year 2021. As a way to celebrate some of the things that are coming out of this make along, I like to include a little montage from the finished objects thread for that make along right here on the Wool Needles Hands podcast. So without further ado, here are some of the things coming out of the Wool Needles Hands Year of Makes 2021 make along. Definitely get involved. Whips are totally acceptable, so if you have things languishing or things that you're currently working on, just hop right on and join us and share some of those pictures that you have, and definitely be involved in the chatter thread. I will be giving out prizes occasionally, sporadically, so keep posted for that, but definitely include your photos in the finished objects thread as well, so that I have some finished objects to share here on the podcast every 2 weeks. we have made it to this segment of the podcast that has always been here, but I'm changing the name. I don't know, I got this idea because I am a big slipper wearer of late. I've always enjoyed slippers, but since we moved into our new home, there's hard floors all throughout the house except for like my office and the bedrooms, and I wear slippers a lot. Even in the summertime I was wearing some form of like a slipper on my feet because of the hard floors, and so I've come to kind of develop this I don't know, this thing with slippers, and so I'm calling this Slippers and Sippers, which sounds really dumb when I say it out loud, but you guys, it's staying because it's clever. This is just a segment where I share with you what I'm sipping on and what slippers I'm wearing on my feet. And that might be weird and maybe overly quirky, but I'm going with it. So right now, right now what I am sipping on is some, I've forgotten, I think it's oolong and jasmine. It's by Bigelow. It's a new line of teas that they have called Steep. It's like, it's kind of like a bougie Bigelow offshoot of their brand, and yeah, it's just called Steep. But they have lots of really nice fine teas, I guess, and this is like a oolong jasmine, and it's really good. It's, you know, it's a tea bag. It's not loose leaf or anything like that. I actually have this giant bag. I got really into the idea of drinking green tea. Oolong tea. And so I ordered this bag of loose leaf oolong tea on Amazon, thinking it was just going to be like a reasonably sized bag, and it's enormous. It's more tea than I even know what to do with, so I'll probably be breaking out that in a few episodes. But for right now, I'm just having a regular cup of oolong and jasmine tea in my Camp Endor mug. These were kind of like a Christmas gift that I got my husband, but there's two in the set. And one of them has an Ewok on the front, and this one just has the X-Wing on the front. And yeah, so it was kind of like a Christmas gift to the mister, but also to myself, since there's two mugs. But anyway, that's my Camp Endor mug. Big Star Wars fan here, if you can't tell. And the slippers that I'm wearing, I didn't have like any special slippers to share. I just grabbed like a random pair. These are just a pair of cute slippers. Look at that. Slippers and Sippers. Oh, these are by Be Soft, and I've had them for a while. I got them at some kind of little boutique place in Sun Valley, Idaho, believe it or not. And yeah, so that's what I've got on my feet, and this is what I've got in my mug, and I am ready to share with you guys some stuff. I have some stuff to share with you. I have a finished thing. I have progress being made on some new projects that you didn't see in the last episode that I've been working on. I have a couple books that I want to share with you guys. It's going to be kind of a loaded episode today, so I want to go ahead and get started, but it feels really good to be sitting back down in front of the camera. And you guys, it's only been 2 weeks since the last podcast. Like, what is even going on? I think it's having this space that is my own for podcasting, that it's separate from everything else. The kids and my husband get to have their space. I get to have mine. The windows are open and it's kind of rain. It's completely overcast. It was like drizzling on and off today, but it's a nice kind of cool breeze coming in. Oh, it feels so good in here. Yeah, so this is super cozy. So I've been super excited to podcast, to share some things with you guys. So I even got, this is kind of, I guess, unrelated, but I even got a new podcasting notebook to write all of my show notes in. I like to hand write notes as often as I can. I'm not a big fan of like the I'm trying to get the pen out of the spiral binding. I'm not a big fan of like the note-taking apps, even though I use them religiously, but like if I want to take like really clean notes for whether it's like shop update notes or podcast episode notes or business related notes, I like to hand write them and have like nice pens to use. Anyway, so once and it looks like I already have a ring from my coffee mug on my notebook. This is Frisco. We'll talk about him later. But yeah, so here's my new podcasting notebook. Kind of has like a fun, like classic notebook look about it. I need to get one of those really cool gel pens, like those gold gel pens to write like podcasting notes or show notes or something like that. But you can see it already has a ring from my mug But yeah, so I have a new podcasting notebook. I'm so pumped, you guys. I'm gonna set that down here. I'm gonna open it up to my notes so I can keep track of where we are. There we are. Okay. Yeah, so I am just all about it, and I'm excited to jump right into it. So grab your drink, whatever it is that you have that you're sipping on, get cozy in some slippers, or don't, you know, whatever. Live your best life, and let's get into it. All right, guys, jumping right into my finished objects for this episode. Last week, I shared with you guys my Sunday socks by Petite Knit, and I only had one sock, and I think I edited out a part of the episode where I showed you what I had of the other sock, and it was like a little mustache of ribbing. It was nothing. Nothing to write home about. And all of a sudden, out of the clear blue yonder, I have two. So where there was one, now there is two. So let's go ahead and let's just give it a minute here. Let this sink in. Yeah, Taylor's got an FO for you guys. Yep, socks. And yeah, so these are the Sunday socks by Petite Knit using Fiber for the People yarn. So this is the Merino single base, which is a fingering weight yarn that I offer in the shop, and it is 100% superwash merino single ply. I'm holding it double here, and the reason why is because when I dyed this colorway, and I don't have the skein with me, I'll pop a picture up so you can see what it looks like in the skein, but when I dyed this colorway, it was so sumptuous and scrummy that I had to have some for myself, and I wanted to knit these socks in that colorway, this colorway, because it was just so perfect, especially if you see the image on the pattern, the sample image that she has for these. It's very similar, kind of very neutral. I like to say nude, if you will. And so that's what I am knitting these out of. And I'm hoping, I haven't worn them a lot, only because I wanted to show you the sock, you know, freshly blocked, and these are just steam blocked on the blockers. But I wanted to show you the sock before I had worn it. However, because it is single ply yarn, and because I was talking about wondering how they're going to wear, because you usually don't knit socks in single ply yarn, you don't really knit anything that's going to be very hard wearing in single ply yarn, I am going to be keeping you guys posted on how these hold up. So occasionally I'll pop them into the podcast, let you see what's going on. We'll see how they hold up, considering the fact that I do have hard floors, and the floors have like a wood grain texture, and these are made with single ply yarn. So we're gonna see how that goes. If for whatever reason I start noticing a little bit of wearing on the heels and the ball of the foot area, or the toes or whatever, well, not the toes in the case of what I'm about to mention, but the heel and the ball of the foot, I'm thinking about getting some suede to reinforce those areas. And I'm thinking that might be a really good idea for like chunkier hand knit socks in general, or really anything, because I know you can purchase really soft, kind of buttery suede, and, you know, sew it on, tack it onto the bottom of your socks, and then you have some really good reinforcement there. Yeah, so that may end up happening, but first I'm gonna see how they wear. I have enough of this yarn left over. Hold on just a minute, I'm gonna go get the leftovers because I want to show you how much I have left over. Yeah, I sit on a pillow, gotta frame it out right. I have to sit up a little higher, so I'm sitting on this pillow, and thankfully this pillow doesn't have any batteries in it anymore. It's one of those pillows that you like lean against, or you put your feet on, or you sit on, and it vibrates. This would be a whole different show. Not that show. Okay, so this is what I have left over from, I think I'm blushing a little. This is what I have left over from my socks. So I was holding it together. So I've got two cakes here. I don't know how much this weighs, but I mean, you can see, let's do, see? Can you tell about how much I've got just by my squishiness here? Doubt it. But it's like half of a skein. I don't have a scale in here, but I know that if I were to weigh this, it would be like 50 grams of yarn each, if not more. This is the the yarn in the skein. I have this. It's not in my stash. It's in. I don't keep a back stock of yarn. When I have a shop update, yarn sells out, and then I dye more yarn, and so I don't have like a back stock for any length of time. But this is in my my secret backstock area. It's like the purgatory between shop yarn and my stash. There's this like middle ground of yarn that gets tucked away every once in a while, and it's like I'm considering nipping it for myself. That's kind of where this has been. But I can't justify hanging on to this. So this may end up in the shop. But this is the Willow colorway. I dyed this for the Values Yarn Club for Fiber for the People. It's just a very soft, barely there color. It's got lots of pretty rosy pinks running through it, some nice soft yellow, like buttery yellow streaks, and then a real pale, kind of warmy gray with some speckles. So yeah, super, super sumptuous. I couldn't resist it. It had to be made into a pair of soft socks, and it's too good it's too good to pass it up. But what I was gonna say, my whole point was that I have enough yarn here to knit a whole new pair of these if I wanted to. And I mean, even if I didn't have enough to knit exactly the dimensions of these, I could shorten the cuff and we'd be in business. So should something happen to these, I've got that. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what I would make with that leftover at the moment. I'm sure there's something out there, but at the moment I'm not sure. Anyway, Sunday socks by Petite Knit. I'm gonna pop these off of the blockers and show you what they look like when I wear. I mean, look, how cute is that? It's a sock, you guys. It's 2 socks. Woohoo! Okay. I blocked them with a folded cuff because I just really like that look and I wanted it to be nice and clean. So I'm putting them on. First time after the block job. All right. Dare I stand on my sofa to show you guys? Here we go. Oh, this isn't doing anything. I can't. Whoa! Woohoo! I look absolutely ridiculous. I'm gonna try doing this a little differently. Look at that. How cute are these socks? Come on, camera, focus on the socks. Can't you tell that's clearly the most interesting thing right now? So yeah, Petite Knit Sunday socks. Super cozy. Kind of want to wear them throughout the rest of the episode, but I'm going to resist because of, you know, the whole zippers and slippers segment. Gotta stick true to that. It's only the first episode. Can't give up in the beginning. Yeah, but highly recommend these. And how do I recommend these? Let me count the ways. I have slippers. This is how much I love these socks. I have another pair going already. We're watching, so hockey season just started. We're big Golden Knights fans. This is Vegas, guys. And we were watching the first game. Was it the first game? Yeah, it was the first game. And I finished that last sock, and as soon as I finished, I happened to have a skein of a newish colorway coming to the shop called Lucent. I had this in my bag because I was going to do some swatching because it is coming into the shop on January 30th for the shop update. This will be there. So I had this in my bag and I was planning on swatching with it, and my camera is like focusing on Baby Yoda behind me. There we are. That's the business right there. So this is Lucent, and I decided because it's worsted weight that I was going to use this to knit up another pair of Sunday socks, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And I love the way that they're knitting up right now. So this is a pair of Sunday socks, Fiber for the People, Superwash Merino worsted in the colorway Lucent. And they kind of look funny because it's just a long ribbed sock leg. It's real like narrow and kind of hard to see, but I'm loving it. So anyway, this is going to be another Sunday sock pair, and they knit up super fast. So this one, I'm telling you, I started in the second period of the game. I like cast on and I made it to my heel flap by the time the game was over. I don't know, does that make me is that fast? I think that's fast. I mean, it's fast for me. Like I had a third of a sock in a period of hockey. So I love these. I could easily see myself busting my stash with just a bunch of these. And I don't know like what it is about this sock versus like any other heavyweight sock, meaning like a worsted weight sock that I like am drawn to. But I think it might have to do with this Knit 2 Purl 2 cuff. It's really long, so you're doing like 9 1/4 inches of ribbing. So you would think that maybe that would be kind of a turnoff if you don't really like doing ribbing, but it's very rhythmic. super fast. The combination of needle to yarn weight, the gauge, is actually really pleasant. There's no tugging. It's not too tight. It's not too loose. It's really pleasant. And then I think also too, because this has a little bit in the context of a sock, this colorway has a little bit of a spiraling stripe, so it keeps it interesting. But regardless of the colorway or the color, I don't even think that matters, because I enjoyed it just as much with this, and there's not any real drastic color changes to kind of keep it interesting. It's just calming and soothing. And so I definitely recommend those. And then when you get down to the foot, half of the foot is knit in stockinette, so your instep is still in the ribbing, and then the sole of the sock is knit in stockinette, and so you kind of get half and half, and they just fly. Like, the fact that this isn't finished is because I set it aside to work on something else, but like I feel like tonight, because hockey's on tonight, I'll finish this entire sock and have a good part of the next sock like on the needles by the time that game is over. So we'll see. But yeah, I love it. So that is my my Sunday socks by Petite Knit. Highly recommend them if you have some random skeins of worsted weight yarn hanging around that you really don't have anything to do with. That's a really good place to use up that yarn, because they're great gifts. Plus, I mean, you could have how many pairs of those in your sock collection and be fine. Highly recommend them. The Sunday socks by Petite Knit. Come here. Come here. You want to say hi? That's the camera right there. Right there, see?
Hi.
Okay. Go ahead. Come on, number 2. I mean, little one. I shouldn't call my children number 2. Can you say hi? No? Up there. You see that black tube? Okay. All right, baby. I love you. Okay, so on to works in progress. I am going to be showing you guys today something different than in the last episode, because like I mentioned in the last episode, bumblebee knitting is a thing. I've been doing a lot of that still, except, and what that is and what I described in the last episode, it's like knitting a little bit from this project, knitting a little bit from this project, a little bit over here, just back and forth like a little bumblebee from flower to flower to flower. And I've been doing a lot of that, except I kind of hovered over a few projects for a little longer this time between the last episode and this episode on new things. And so this is not super new. I've shared this previously. So I think I shared this in episode 41 of the podcast way back. I want to say it was May, but a while ago. And I've made some progress on this. This is living in my Fringe Supply Company bag, because that's what we do, right? We share the project bag. I know y'all love that. So that's what project bag I have this in. And I mentioned last time I don't really use project bags, and honestly, like, I don't really. Like, in here there's some willy-nilly stuff just hanging in here, but this one happened to be living in a different basket, and so when I pulled it out, I just kept it in the bag. This is my No Frills sweater, also by Petite Knit, believe it or not. And I am making some serious progress on this. When I shared this last time, I don't even think I had, separated for the sleeves or separated for the body. Separated the sleeves from the put the sleeves on hold and continued with the body. I think I hadn't even done that yet. But now I am on, what do we call it? Sleeve Island, you guys, with my No Frills. So I'm going to hold it up for you. Here it is. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the color here and what's happening with the fabric going on. So I am knitting this using 2 different yarns. Fiber for the People, Merino Nylon 2-ply, fingering weight yarn in the colorway Sapphire. That is my, what I call, base yarn. So this is the yarn that makes up the base of the fabric. And on top of this, I am holding a skein of Angel Rust in mohair, kid mohair silk, both Fiber for the People. I don't know, actually, I mean, typically I feel like I see a lot of folks pairing a solid mohair over the top of a variegated base yarn, and then you get one effect. And then I decided to do it the other way around with this sweater, and I was so just in awe of how beautiful it was with a variegated mohair over the top of a solid base yarn that I really kind of started to think that maybe that's the ideal way of pairing your mohair when you have a different colorway of mohair to solid yarn or base yarn or what have you. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about that because it's evolving the more I knit. Now, I am not alternating skeins here. I know. Don't worry. I know. And I will tell you, this is not me saying you don't need to alternate skeins. It's whatever. It's ridiculous. It's unnecessary. I'm not saying that because there are lots of instances where it is smart, wise to alternate skeins. I just didn't do it here. If I feel like I can get away without doing it, I won't do it because it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I didn't do it here. And needless to say, there is a noticeable thing happening in the fabric, but I actually think it's kind of cool. So when you look at this, I'm going to look at it over here. It's easier for me to see. You can see that there's definitely a lot more blue happening up here. And as it works down the fabric, you see more of that warm russet mohair coming out. And I think that's super cool. And also too, I'm going to scooch up a little because there's this part. I don't know if I can very easily. Yeah. So right here, there's this streak of orange from the mohair that kind of like came through really strong. And I always thought that was kind of cool because it kind of goes here and then it breaks up at like a, an angle right here and goes up over the shoulder, which is really neat. That orange starts to really come in strong down here at the bottom of the body of the sweater. And so you get this fading effect happening through the body of the sweater. Now, I think that I got lucky here, that could definitely be kind of strange or maybe too flashy. But I think because the color is coming from a mohair pairing and not from the base yarn, it's a little bit more kind of tempered and subtle and almost looks intentional. So I think it's really cool. You get kind of a fading effect here. So cooler tones at the top, warmer tones at the bottom. I'm going to bring it a little bit closer here so you can kind of see it. But it's really a cool, kind of a cool effect. And if I stop right here, you can see that it's over here. That streak happening right down there. So yeah, so this is my No Frill sweater by Petite Knit. Love the sweater. I enjoy knitting it. I will say that the ribbing becomes very tedious because you're knitting it on really small needles, but that's just a me thing. I mean, that's a lot of people thing, but for me, it's just like that can become kind of tiresome. 7 centimeters of ribbing down here at the bottom was really killing me. Like I felt like I stopped to measure it every round, hoping that for whatever reason that last round was going to be 3 centimeters. I moved on through and I'm really happy that I got to this part because I feel like the sleeves are going to fly because they're so they're skinnier compared to the circumference of the body of the sweater. Yeah, so I'm really happy with this. I highly recommend it. I know that this calls for DK weight yarn, but I'm just gonna give you my advice. If you're gonna use a DK weight yarn for this, I would suggest a heavy DK weight to a light worsted weight because there's a lot of DK weight yarn out there that really borders on being like a sport weight. Maybe like a little heavy sport weight. And so you don't want to go with, and that's fine. I mean, the weights of yarns, they vary depending on where they're being, milled, but you definitely want to stick with something that's a little on the heavier side. Because this knits, this fingering weight yarn with mohair, my 2-ply tends to be a little bit on the heavier fingering. So this is a heavier DK, weight happening right here. So, and I love the fabric that it produces. So if you want something similar to that and you don't want to pair with mohair, I would definitely stick to a heavier DK weight, something that is almost going to be like a light worsted. Just a little tip from my experience with this sweater and really how much I love this fabric, kind of the composition of the fabric, the weight of the fabric. We could do the pizza dough trick, as I like to call it. I like to drape it over my fist like you're draping pizza dough and kind of just see how it handles that. And I think it's nice. It has a little bit of a weight to it. Yeah, it's nice. So that is my No Frills sweater by Petite Knit. Getting close with Fiber for the People yarn in merino nylon 2-ply and kid mohair silk, sapphire for the blue, angel rust for the mohair, and you guys, it's really pretty delectable. Happy with that. So I have a feeling this one's going to be staying. I'm going to just actually set it in here. It's getting to a size where putting it into this project bag is kind of annoying, so I'm just going to put that off to the side for now. I have a feeling I'm going to be working on that more often because I would really love to have it finished so I could wear it before it's really out of season. And I think that I still have a couple months max where I might be able to wear that in the evenings when we're sitting outside with the kids watching them play, something like that. So I'm hoping to get that done relatively soon. Anyway, we move on. All right, you guys, that is all of the knitting related content that I have for you today. I do have some things that I want to share with you otherwise though, so I'm going to set all of my knitting projects aside and we're going to dive into the next segment into something a little bit different but very colorful. I am currently in the process of developing a colorway inspiration library. So that sounds kind of convoluted and unusual, but what I'm trying to do is develop a library of books, actual pages, covers, books, or scrapbooks of my own that I create with little bits and pieces of things that would help me inspire colorways for Fiber for the People yarn. So I have purchased my first two, actually no, I take that back, 3. I have 3. Yes, so I have purchased my first 3 books that are going to be going into my colorway inspiration library. So when I develop new colorways for the shop, there's a few different places that I go for inspiration, and they're not always the same. It's just that I like to kind of pull inspiration for colorways from more than just like, I don't know, like a Pinterest search or a Google image search or something like that. In the beginning, when I would design colorways for the shop, Pinterest was a huge part of that, like seeking out inspiration for color combinations and finding pictures for a club photo or club colorway inspiration. Pinterest is a big just kind of source of inspiration, and it still is. It's a great place to go if you need places to find like fun color combinations together, photos. I mean, it's rich with that kind of thing, and I do still use it from time to time. Not quite as heavily as I did before, but still occasionally. But I've noticed a theme that when I do use digital imagery to inspire colorways, it's usually a picture of a textile of some kind, or of a texture of something, or of a real life thing that is of a color. It's not just a color blocked color scheme palette. And I know that a lot of dyers, artists, anybody who works with color really finds that the most true inspiration comes from things like that. If it's not it's like secondary and primary sources. If it's not a primary source that you can hold in your hand, like a physical, like a fabric or a textile that I can actually have in my hand, a picture of that thing is the second best way of developing your inspiration, or of finding your inspiration, whatever. So I find that a lot of my inspiration comes from textiles and from textures and different kind of like tangible materials, as opposed to like views or landscapes or flowers or things like that. And so I decided that I wanted to start my my library, my actual physical library, with something that celebrates textiles and their color. And so this is a book by a photographer named Christine Chitness. It's really easy to get lost in like the digital universe of examples of color, just go into your phone, look at Pinterest, say I want something that looks like X, Y, and Z, and then you get, you know, thousands of photos that could be used to inspire this particular color, and that's fine. But I think the limitless quality of that can just be daunting and so hard to narrow in on any one thing. I mean, if you are anybody who works in color and needs to find outside sources for inspiration, especially in times like these where you're not really traveling around the world, it's hard when you have such a limitless expanse of options in front of you, because it's just really hard to narrow anything down. This is kind of cool because you know there is a limit to what you have here. You can work through it kind of like a it's like very limited in what you're going to do. There's kind of a roadmap for you there. So like if I wanted to create colorway collection inspired primarily or exclusively by Chitness's book here, I could do that, and there's a limit to what I can choose, and it's kind of comforting, and also I think really good for your creativity to provide yourself with limitations in terms of where you get your inspiration. So I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling, like this is like a stream of consciousness, but this is definitely something I think about all the time, because developing new colorways is just it's a thing in this line of work, is wanting to have something new. And I don't come out with new things all the time, but when I do, I really like to put a lot of thought into them, and I want to develop them in a way that is meaningful to me so that it comes through in the yarn. And I think that this is a really good step in that direction. So I guess the takeaway from all of this is the benefit of providing yourself limitations in terms of where you get your inspiration. And when you work in a creative business, to find places that provide you with really rich inspiration, but have limitations to them as well. So you're not inundated by so much that it's really hard to narrow down to one thing. So that's what this is. I don't know. This is going to grow, but this is my future colorway inspiration library, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. If you have any suggestions, I should have mentioned this sooner. If you have any suggestions for books that I could check out, you know, or to check out, I mean, I guess I could check stuff out at the library, but I wanted to make it my own. But books that I should look into for this purpose, please let me know. Leave a comment down below. I would love to hear from you guys in terms of that, because I really, truly do want to develop a good, healthy colorway inspiration library, because I just think that's a cool thing to have in this line of work. Well, that is everything I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop by and check out episode 43 of the podcast. It has been so nice sharing all of these things with you guys. Until next time, episode 44 of the podcast, be well, be healthy, happy knitting, happy whatever it is that you're doing, and I will see you soon. Bye! If you wanna tell me, tell him I'm gonna kiss her. Okay. Tell him I'm a good kisser. It's time to get into it.